Welcome back to Fair's Fair. I know that it has been a while. There have been a few things going on in the background that have eaten up a lot of my time, but hopefully I can get back into making videos. And today I'm going to talk about Joker 2, Folly times 2. I mean, Folly Ado. And after looking at the hubbub about it, it appears as though it is bad. As though it's not good. My god, if only there had been somebody who could have told us that the character had already completed his arc, that Joker didn't need a sequel, that there really wasn't anywhere for the character to go, and trying to meld him with the greater narrative of the DCEU would likely require doing something unpopular, or at least would be near impossible to do in a way the fans would enjoy. Oh wait, I did that! And as expected, and as you all know, Joker 2 Folly Ado was not good. Because the character had already completed his arc and was pretty well rounded off at the ends, with no loose hairs for them to really pull at, this means that in order for the second movie to do anything with him, they had to revert him back to who he was in the first movie, completely undoing all of the progress he did. I have to clarify that when I say he made progress, this is not necessarily towards a good person. He has progressed into a villain. His character progression was not a good thing. When I say I like the Joker, if everyone involved in the making of these movies could come close and listen really closely, that doesn't mean that he's a good person. That does not mean that I think I should be like him. When I say I empathize with the Joker from the first movie, this does not mean that I am going to shoot a TV host. Nor do I believe that it is a good thing to do so. This is a foreign concept to a lot of people, particularly in the, shall we say, energetic political fields we find ourselves in today. But you are capable of empathizing with someone as a human being, even if they are not a good person or are doing a bad thing. You can still understand how they got there. Let me know if I'm speaking too fast for you. In addition to reverting Arthur back to who he was at the start of Joker 1, which I'll get back to, they open Joker 2 with a lie. It opens with a fun little cartoon that shows an evil shadow taking over Arthur and making him shoot Murray, which is not what happened. This isn't the unreliable narrator from the first one, because this isn't Arthur's delusion. This is the movie making something up, then spends the whole runtime debating if it was real, even though the first movie shows it not to be, and ends by admitting that it wasn't real. I really hope they stood up before pulling the entire character's plot out of their ass. But yup, the character got entirely reverted, and then one of the major parts of the first movie, where you were not 100% certain about what did or did not happen, due to Arthur Fleck being an unreliable narrator, Joker 2 makes sure that you don't have any of those such delusions by making an entire courtroom drama to go over all of the events in factuality, completely removing any mystique or mystery or open to interpretation that might have been in those events from the first movie, which kind of feels like taking all those useless bumps, loops, and turns out of a roller coaster. You do understand that's what people liked about it, right? Of course, the songs are decently well sung, even if they don't really add anything to anything. In fact, quite a few of them seem to be restating things that are already in the movie outside of the song, so I'm not 100% certain why we needed them. And I suppose the question really comes down to, why did they choose to dismantle the character like this? And the answer is, of course, because the creator did not like how people interpreted it the first time. That's why all of the songs are so on the nose and over-explaining things. Because we need to make sure that you understand what the director wanted you to understand. So we're going to double down on it very, very overtly. While in the first movie, you saw a lot of bad things happen to Arthur, and you thought, wow, I really feel for this guy. I can see how he's downtrodden and becomes the Joker. His character arc completes when he shoots Murray. In his mind, a victory against the person who pushed him. No, it's not a good thing. No, it is not a heroic triumph, but it was to him. Murray made fun of the poor and mentally ill, yet was venerated. Just like the 3 rich guys that he killed in the subway, who society venerated, but he was made the villain, even though he was the victim in that scenario. It's all a joke to him. Society is a joke. And me saying that this is his victory in realizing it's a joke, as well as getting to shoot Murray, that is a victory to him. That does not mean it's a good thing. But the director makes sure to fix that this time, making sure that all of the successes or victories he has over those that are attacking him are all in his head. And at the end of all of it, he dies sad and alone in a puddle of blood, and somebody else gets to take the mantle that he wanted. Now, I've been kind of holding off on this statement for a while, but I think I feel confident at this point saying that Joker 2 is so abusive to Arthur Fleck that it borders on misery porn. I get it, you want him to be downtrodden, but that's what you had in the first one. You didn't have to double down on that and make it 1,000 times worse. Along with the weird transition of the attitudes around him that led to an alleged rape by the guards. It's stuff like that that steps over the edge and gets to the point where I feel like you're just abusing this character. You want us to feel bad for him as a miserable person, but you've gone too far. Because it's no longer just the world being indifferent to him and his suffering and his own struggles with mental health. It's the world is actively trying to beat the shit out of him. I get it. The world took his decline as an excuse to act out their own grievances without any care for Arthur himself. I think everyone got that. No matter what victories you get against the individuals, the issues aren't fixed. Then the sequel made it all insubstantial. It takes me out of it. It robs me of the verisimilitude. It doesn't feel like the world is beating the shit out of him. It feels like the director is beating the shit out of him. Especially with all of the decisions that undermines all of the questions about whether or not things were real in the first movie. All alongside the regression of the character. It's no longer a story, it is the director specifically doing these things, and that takes you out of the story. I understand that some people did like it. That is, mostly people who didn't watch the original. Like Pippa. Big fan, love her content. But without having the context of the original, it's hard for people to see exactly how clear the dismantling of the original this movie is. How clearly the director seemed to loathe what people liked about the original. From what I hear, apparently the entire idea of this one came to Joaquin Phoenix in a dream, and then they made the movie for him? Which, I don't know about you guys, but that lands really big red flags for me. For starters, just because an actor is in movies doesn't mean they should write movies. These are two completely different skill sets. You can be a great actor, but a shitty writer. I'm sure there are people who can do both of them very, very well. M. Night Shyamalan seems to desperately think that he can do both of them well, and to his credit, he does appear to have an equal amount of skill in both of them. But everything about this movie seems like a bad idea. The corporation decided that the first one made money, so they had to make a sequel. That didn't make sense. You shouldn't have done that. They decided to write the script based on an actor's dream. Not a good idea. You shouldn't have done that. The director was mad about how it was interpreted the first time and decided to completely dismantle the character so he could rebuild it the way he actually wanted it to. That's a bad idea. You shouldn't do that. This movie was made bad idea on top of bad idea on top of bad idea, and somehow people are surprised when that resulted in a bad movie. If you're hoping that I'm going to review that movie, no, I'm not going to. This'll have to be the closest thing you get to a review. While I would like to be able to look at it from the perspective that people have been seeing it where they didn't see the original, I can't do that. No matter what I do, I can't view it from the perspective of not knowing about the original because of so many points in it when it is trying specifically to attack something from the original. It becomes hard for me to view it as its own movie, and I don't think I could review it from that point. And also, it's a sequel. I don't think I should have to. And I don't think it's reasonable to ask people to take it on its own merits when it is a sequel. And to all of the big brain pseudo-intellectuals on Twitter who are telling me I didn't get the movie, I did get it. I understood it. The director was incredibly clear about it this time. People cared about Joker, not the man who was Joker. The problem is, in the first movie, I did care about the man who was Joker. I did care about Arthur Fleck. I did care about what happened to him that made him the Joker. I did get the sequel. It's just shit. Believe it or not, it's possible to get a movie and still think it's shit. The problem that most people aren't understanding, I think the people who made the original don't get the original. And that is possible to do. I get it that most media is interpretive. There are, of course, no wrong ways you can interpret it. But when it comes to interpreting a piece of media, there is a such thing as the media in question does not support that interpretation with the events that happen in it. If I have a movie where a guy walks up to another guy and stabs him in the heart, then steals his money, you can interpret that as a commentary on why door handles are on the side that they're on opposite the hinges. And I can't tell you your interpretation is wrong because it is your interpretation, but I can tell you that the media in question does not contain anything that would support that. And there are many other interpretations that the actual events of the media do support. And of course, it will all come down to people making argument of the beard, where they give me slightly more and more and more extreme or interpretive understandings of a media until they reach one that is absolutely ridiculous. And they would state that simply because I cannot make a perfect line between a ridiculous interpretation and one that fits with the media, that therefore there is no difference between the two. Again, argument of the beard, just because you cannot draw a perfect line between the two does not mean that the two are the same thing. So yes, I did get Joker 2. The problem is that the people who made it didn't get Joker 1, or at least they didn't get why people liked it. If I had to point out all of the worst bits in Joker 2, I think it would be all of the bits that marry it to Joker 1. Every interaction it has with its predecessor seem to be the worst parts of this movie. Which is why, again, the people who haven't seen the original tend to have a more favorable view of Joker 2. Let me know in the comments as you like, share, subscribe, feed the algorithm. Did you like Joker 2? Did you like Joker 1? What do you feel the difference is in the message between Joker 2 and Joker 1? I'm interested to know your perspectives on it as well. And if you are, of course, one of those pseudo-intellectuals who is here to explain to me that I just don't get the movie and I have failed to understand its deep themes. After all, you do need a very high IQ to understand why Arthur needed to be assaulted by those guards. You too are allowed to go down to the comments, but you're only allowed to do it if you'll be entertainingly angry.